The Attorney General in Arizona says that a recently passed Tucson law that makes it illegal for landlords to reject Section 8 tenants actually violates state law and must be repealed immediately. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over one of the topics that I've covered in, many different localities, and that's these laws that require landlords to take Section 8 tenants. Okay, I told you already, I don't agree with these sort of laws, and when they put these laws in place and they say, hey, it's illegal to discriminate based on what they call source of income, what they really mean is that they will not allow landlords to reject a Section 8 tenant. Now, part of my reasoning is that Section 8 vouchers are not income. If they are income, then why aren't the people paying any taxes on them, okay? That's because it's not, okay? It is an entitlement, not income. If it was income, they'd be able to spend it on more than just housing. So yeah, they use these tricky terms and try to fool people into believing that, hey, well, the issue is different than what it really is. And what this really falls down to is Section 8 is a voluntary program where landlords can choose whether they want to participate or not. And the reason a lot of landlords don't want to participate is because of all the ridiculous bureaucracy that they have to put up with if they decide to participate. Okay, I put up with that bureaucracy because I actually am a Section 8 landlord. I have Section 8 tenants in some of my units, and it is ridiculous. It costs me a lot of time and money, and it isn't worth it for a lot of landlords to have to do the same thing that I'm doing right now. So I'm glad that the Arizona Attorney General is saying, hey, this is in violation of state law, so this law is no good. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. What do you think of these laws, okay? If you are a landlord and you have Section 8 tenants, do you, agree that Section 8 should not be discriminated against? Okay, I'm a landlord. I have Section 8 tenants, and I still believe that the landlord should be the one who has the ultimate decision on who they allow into their property, not the government. Okay, when you say the government makes the decision on what tenants you can put in your property, I'm 100% opposed to that, and that's what these laws do. Okay, so let's see what the situation in Arizona is. This article is coming from usnews.com, and it says, Arizona Attorney General says Tucson Fair Housing Ordinance violates law. Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich is ordering the city of Tucson to repeal a law prohibiting landlords from denying potential tenants because of how they make their money. And simply put, they say, oh, you got to repeal a law based on how tenants make their money. That's garbage, okay? Tenants aren't making any money in this situation. When a tenant receives a Section 8 voucher, it's not like they're going off and working a job and getting paid in vouchers. No, this is a government entitlement program, not a source of income. And that's my whole problem with this, okay? They use this terminology, these words, to try to confuse people and change the situation around, Anyway, let's get into the article and see what it says. Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich is ordering the city of Tucson to repeal a law prohibiting landlords from denying potential tenants because of how they make their money. Brnovich said in a news release Thursday that Tucson's source of income ordinance violates state law. The state's top prosecutor argues the Arizona legislature in 1992 passed legislation allowing large cities and towns to devise local fair housing measures. However, the measures had to be approved by January 1st, 1995. This current ordinance comes 27 years too late, Brnovich said. The Tucson City Council unanimously passed the ordinance in September despite objections from apartment owners groups. The law adds source of income to other factors like race and sexual orientation that are protected from discrimination. The intent was to protect low-income renters who receive government housing assistance. See, and like I said, that's the intent. Now, if they said, okay, well, a true source of income protection law would be like, okay, well, you get your income from, let's say you are a drug dealer, right? And that's how you make your income, right? Now, landlord wouldn't be able to discriminate because you are selling drugs in order to make money to pay the rent. But that's a little bit crazy example there, but that's what it sounds like. Or maybe let's go back into the legal world. Maybe you are a person who owns a marijuana dispensary, right? And a landlord says, well, I don't want somebody who earns their income from marijuana to be in my unit. Well, that source of income discrimination would be illegal according to their law. But here's the problem, right? I really think that the state attorney general didn't like this whole thing whatsoever, and then used the technicality in order to get this law, basically stricken off the records. So use a technicality in that they said, well, you can create your own measures, but they had to be implemented by this date way back in the 90s. Okay? Now, I mean, whatever it takes to make sure these ridiculous laws they don't stay in place. But I think in the long term, there still is the opportunity for somebody, like progressive politicians to get into the state legislature and then repeal the part that says that local municipalities can't pass their own fair housing laws. Republican State Speaker-elect Representative Ben Toma of Peoria was among those who blasted the ordinance and filed a complaint with the Attorney General. Brnovich says Tucson has 30 days to rescind the law. So yeah, they have 30 days to get this thing, this ridiculous law off of their books. And I'm glad that there are people who still are fighting for property rights, etc. But back when I lived in Arizona, Arizona was known as a place that was much more conservative. People believed strongly in property rights there, and it was a great place to be a landlord. I mean, I'm just being honest. I think it still is, but I think it's a downhill thing. It's going downhill. It's only going to get worse. And the problem is that a ton of people from California moved into Arizona. And, I don't blame them for wanting to leave California. I mean, California is overpriced, overregulated, anti-business. And, they pushed out their middle class. And now they can't even afford to, live there. And they said, well, look, Arizona's right here, right next to us. And people can still live there with a middle class income and buy a house. So a ton of people left California. Unfortunately, they took their politics with them, and they said, oh, well, we should basically, bring these crappy laws with us from California. So the reason that you left California was because it was too expensive, because it was over-regulated, etc. And what do you want to do? You want to come to Arizona and then, start passing too many laws, drive up the cost of housing, put too many regulations in place, and it becomes just like California. Okay, I saw the beginnings of this right before I left. I moved out in 2015. I've been here in Omaha, Nebraska for the last 7 years, right? And I saw the beginnings of this, right? And it was scary, okay? Thinking that, hey, I could end up, 20 years down the line, if I stayed, 20 years down the line, I could end up basically in California to the east, okay? And that's not what I wanted. So I moved on to Nebraska. I'm in a more landlord-friendly place. I sold all my rentals in Arizona back in 2020, and, I'm completely out of that area now. So much, much happier. So yeah, I'm glad the Attorney General out in Tucson the Arizona Attorney General decided to basically say, hey, this Tucson law was ridiculous. One of my rentals actually was within the city limits of Tucson, and I don't want the government telling me that, I have to take a tenant that I don't want in my property. So, I'm glad I sold, and I'm glad that the Attorney General, at least, still is fighting for landlords and their property rights.